I had an amazing evening last evening speaking to Austin Nixamong and Kelly Brownbill of the Anishinaabe Peoples Nation, talking about their spiritualities. Kelly spoke about the two overarching principles that they live by of balance and relationship, and that's with all things. We got to talk about all sorts of interesting things, and it really came through what they as a people have suffered, and the beginning of their relearning their own culture and to try and re-establish their practices and their understanding of the world around them. It's scary how close some of the horrible things that have happened to their nations really are. And Austin went to a Catholic school where he was simply taught that he was a dirty little Indian, using his words, and that actually his culture and spirituality and nationhood were suppressed to try and ingratiate them into the Canadian nation, and that really it existed until very recently, that their sweat lodges were burnt down, and even by some of their own people that had become Christian and taken on Christian ways and understandings, that actually this native spirituality needed to be suppressed and extinguished. So that was sort of scary, really, hearing those stories. They spoke about their creation stories, and a fantastic story about the fact that actually when the Creator made human beings, he made 4 men, 1 red, 1 white, 1 black and 1 yellow, and that so their creation story speaks of the 4 races, if you would want to call it like that, that there was a distinction then, that those races then split as well into further peoples, but that there was a, whenever their stories were coming about, however long ago that was, and it's really tough to talk about the sort of the history of it because it's not really known because of it being an oral history, but even now over here they're talking about the Bering Straits idea and the ice bridge. Really, that is there were peoples on Turtle Island way before that. Dates like 40,000 years now are being talked about, and probably longer ago than that, 200,000 years. It is amazing to think that these cultures have been around for that long, and that that story of creation was around. Their belief in a creator God, in that creator deity, in that sense, it came across as I was talking to Kelly and Austin last night. They also talked about the fact that there was a prophecy that actually all 4 of these races would end up here on Turtle Island. And so you can kind of understand why, when the first white Europeans were arriving, the First Nations would have, to some extent, embraced them with open arms, the understanding that actually the prophecy was coming true, that actually these peoples would all come to Turtle Island. And we didn't go into much more depth about that, so I didn't hear about whether the prophecy spoke about how horrible life was going to be with all the 4 nations together. But it was an amazing evening. Austin talked about his prayer walks, particularly in the morning, and thanks for the things around him, the natural world, which was amazing. They're similar journeys to what I'm trying to achieve in my skiing, to give thanks, to be outside, to find that balance of life, to find that closeness to God. It was amazing hearing their stories. One of the things that I loved while I was over here was the Huron Carol. "'Twas in the moon of winter time." Now, both Kelly and Austin didn't really like that. The absorbing of their culture What I liked was the Jesuits trying to get the Christian story across in a language that might be understood. But of course, the suppression of the culture that came along with that and the baggage that that all brought meant that is not well liked. There is a local church that uses Indigenous people in their nativity scenes, and again, that's not well liked. And it's because of the suppression of culture and nationhood that has happened here. But there's an awful lot we can learn by when we actually sit down and listen to them, and an awful lot of similarities with our own understanding of God when we are actually willing to sit down to respect their spiritualities and listen to their stories and to absorb some of their ideas into our understanding of God, so that we can have a better, bigger understanding of this wonderful God that we worship.